Let's start with the S&P 500. Yesterday, the S&P 500 had a flattish type day. It was one of the lightest volume days we have seen in a while, which makes sense, right? You had all the trillion-dollar companies reporting earnings in the previous couple weeks. You had the Federal Reserve last week and so on and so forth, and that made it for a Monday that I consider to be a hangover. A hangover day is where you get light volume, you get very little price action. On the daily chart, take a look at this, right? If we zoom in a little bit, what do we ultimately have? Well, very clearly, we have this pause day right here. Now, remember, we've broken above this orange line here, which makes this level very likely. Now, this level, again, is right around that 338 level. And again, that's based on this gap fill here and this little pivot top right there. And then also we have upsloping or slightly upsloping lines coming through these pivot points as well. All right, that again brings us to a potential target of that 438 level. So right around 438, maybe a pierce of 438, I continue to think that that is a likely scenario for the stock market or the SPY. And remember, the SPY is a tracking ETF for the S&P. It's what a lot of us technicians use instead of looking at the S&P 500. Okay, so that's where we are today. If we do push through that, you have a level here, which again is a downsloping trend line going further back. That's at 440. But basically, we're into a level now where we're getting very close to where I think the markets have a likely scenario for a pullback. Yesterday, I talked about this very clearly. If you look at history and you have 5 up days in a row or a week where we gain over 5% on the S&P 500, the probabilities are for a 0.8% retrace. That's the average retrace the following week after a move like that. Okay, now if we push up a little bit more, then you would expect a little bit bigger of a pullback because we're at a slightly higher level. So we could be looking at about a 1% retrace by week's end. All right, so again, that's something that we're looking at. And remember, these are probabilities, they're not guarantees. Super important to understand that.